What's up, everybody? This is the Messed Up to Setups podcast. I'm comedian Michael Halcomb, and today I have comedian, producer, actor, Florida native. Are you a native of Florida?
No.
No, not a native. Florida resident, Jason Hedden on the show. We'll talk about Florida a little bit. Stay tuned.
It's all messed up, yeah. Everything's messed up. We're going from this mess up to the next setup. Everything seems so messed up, but it's just our setup.
All right. Hey, guys, this is Messed Up to Setup podcast. I'm comedian Michael Halcomb, and I have Florida resident Jason Hedden in the house with me. Jason, thanks for carving out some time and coming on the show, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Excited to be here and chat with you.
Yeah, dude. So you're not a native of Florida, but you're a resident. How long you been in Florida?
Oh man, I don't think anyone's a resident of Florida. I don't think. Well, I should say I don't think anyone's a native of Florida. Everyone just ends up here. I've been here this time about 17, almost 17 and a half years, but I lived here once before that when I was really young, a military brat, and we moved back and forth from Virginia to Florida. So I think it's home. I've been here longer than I've been anywhere else, so we'll claim it.
Right on, dude. And I mean, you've got an extensive background sort of in the performing world, right? From actor to stand-up comedian to producer. And I've seen on your socials, I think even like fundraiser. So like all kinds of stuff you mentioned, and professor, dude. Like, so talk to us about how you got into like performing arts.
Sure, yeah. So I was that I got bit by the bug, as they say, the theater bug in middle school. My drama teachers took all the wannabe class clowns together and put them in this class called drama, and we spent a couple of years reenacting the original Saturday Night Live sketches.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's cool.
that was my thing. You know, I played soccer, but I really wasn't very good. And when we got to high school and you had to choose between sports and drama, it was really a no-brainer. So I did that. You know, I was the drama club president, that kid. I went to community college on a theater scholarship, and then majored in theater at the University of South Florida, and went off to Seattle and did some acting out there. And then I went to grad school at Ohio State for theater.
Okay.
And then I taught at a private high school in California for a couple of years. And then in 2008, I moved back to Florida as a theater professor, and I did that for 14 years. And towards the end of that reign, one of my former students started an open mic. And I thought it would be a bunch of locals. And it was me, my brother-in-law, and a couple guys drove over 2 hours from Tallahassee. And I thought, these guys are crazy. They're crazier than musicians, you know? They drove 2 hours just for stage time at an open mic.
Right.
And I kind of got hooked. It was, I don't know how I missed it. I had been around, I'd lived in big cities, but I never personally knew anyone who did comedy till I was in my early 40s. Never stepped foot in a comedy club. First time I ever was in a comedy club, I was performing in a comedy club, which is just,
My goodness, bro.
yeah, I don't know, strange to me. So I came from the theater world, which has been sort of a strength and a weakness, but
So let's
been
talk
hooked
about
ever
some of the
since.
strengths of that, though. Like, what are some of the things that have like transferred directly over?
Sure. So I know how to use my voice and my body. I'm not intimidated by being in front of a crowd. That's not a big deal. But in the theater, we actually train actors to ignore the audience, right? We throw up this imaginary fourth wall. And I would instinctively do that sometimes in stand-up comedy, which sounds really dumb to say it now, but I was kind of like doing a monologue up there. And if it wasn't going well, I would ignore them, which, as you know, is the worst possible thing you can do. So I just dug myself a bigger hole. But it took me a while. Sometimes before I go on stage, I have to say, look them in the eyes, like see the people. And it was just sort of working against my training. You know, there's that rare show where you break the fourth wall or have a Saved by the Bell Zach Morris moment and talk right to the camera. But for the most part, Most plays, we're pretending the audience isn't there, which
Right.
doesn't help you when you're trying to do comedy.
Is that good for, like, acting? I mean, what is the reason for that? Why act like they're not there?
Well, I mean, some of it's just, depending on the style of the production you're in, if you're in a realistic period drama, it'd break the illusion of the world you're trying to create
Right.
to
Gotcha.
acknowledge that they're there. You're always aware of it, but you don't necessarily, acknowledge them. So that has sort of
Oh.
taken me a little bit of adjusting over the years.
What about, like, I mean, I would assume that, like, not being necessarily nervous or, like, I don't know, like, what about that? Did that transfer over well?
Yeah.
'Cause
The stage fright a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I've taught acting for a long time, or at least I did till up until a few years ago. And I always tell students that if you've got stage fright, it's just because your focus and attention is on the wrong thing.
mm,
It's impossible for if you're putting all your focus and attention on the other actor on stage, there's really not enough left for you to be super self-conscious about it. So it's usually a focus issue, and I think the same is probably true in stand-up comedy, but I still get nervous before I go on stage. I'm doing a play next month. I'm in a production of Murder on the Orient Express. That's why I'm trying to grow this mustache here, but it's not working very well. I've got a blonde mustache. It's like the most useless thing on the planet. Like a jellyfish on my face. It's so stupid.
uh,
But
that's
anyway,
great.
so I'll get nervous before stepping on stage for a play, or if it's a high profile comedy gig, yeah, I still get a little nervous, but it's more knowing how to focus that energy.
Right. I tell myself, because I still, feel some of that, but I've trained myself. I've been like preaching for 20 plus years, and I've done like every type of public speaking imaginable, like preaching to academic conferences, TED Talk, like, all the things, dude. And like I've I've like trained myself to be able to say when I start to feel that, oh, that's not nerves, that's just adrenaline, which is totally natural. So let me like ride that adrenaline wave. And like for me, that like flips some kind of like gear or switch in my head, and I'm able to just roll with that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that's good. I would be if I didn't have a little bit of nerves, I would fear that I didn't care about it.
Right.
I
Right.
think I think we're nervous because we wanna do well and we want it
Right.
to go well. So if I stop feeling that adrenaline or those nerves, I think it's probably time to quit.
Yeah. I think it's a good and healthy thing, right? Just like
I think
it's
so.
normal. And I love the reframing too of like, no, I feel that because I'm invested in this and like I want it to be good. I want it to
Yeah.
work.
I've seen people in interviews before, regular job interviews, acknowledge their nerves, and it's pretty powerful to say, "You probably noticed I'm nervous here. That's because
Mm,
I really value this opportunity and
huh.
I wanna do well," and to just lay it out there is
Yeah,
kinda
man.
like, "Good for you, dude," you know?
Yeah.
Because the thing you have to remember, and I've experienced this, I've directed a lot of theater, and what people forget is the people on the other side of the table are nervous too, right?
Right.
They've got this
Right.
project, they've got this film, they've got this play, they've got this whatever,
Yeah.
this show they need to book. They want you to do well.
Right.
You can sort of the best thing you can do is sit and watch 200 auditions or go to a comedy festival and see 50 comics perform 7 minutes, it's just it's there's a psychological leverage. If you remember, a lot of times the
That's
people
great.
in power are nervous too because they've got this job. They wanna book the best people, they wanna hire the
Right.
good actors. They want the and, it's a lot of pressure on them too, and we sometimes forget that as the performer.
Yeah, I like that. You've been at it, I don't know, a number of years. I mean, you're wearing a lot of different hats. Let's talk like comedian right now. Like
Sure.
one of the things I love like sort of getting into with comedians is like, do you have a writing process and what does that look like? Cuz I'm learning. It looks really different for almost everybody, but the people I keep having on this podcast, there is like a common thread. So, do you write daily? Or you like wait for inspiration to strike? What's that look like for you?
Yeah, no, I wish I had the discipline to write daily because all the writer friends I know, regardless of the genre, say you've got to carve out that time. You've got to set those appointments for inspiration to show up. That's the thing. And I'm not there yet. I started again this morning and wrote for 10 minutes, and it literally was just I probably got 20 different times I've started that. But usually what happens to me for comedy is I come up with an idea or I see something funny and I just go in Google Drive and I just have bullet point lists, and
Right.
I've can't use a physical notebook because 'cause I'm terrified of losing that notebook. I
Yeah.
would be devastated because that would be the one good joke that I wrote, you know? But so then what I'll do is when I go to an open mic, I'll go through my and I'll see what jumps out at me, you know? And I like index cards, or I'll just
Mm,
make a bullet list. But, and then I'll try it at an open mic, and I tend to write on stage, you know, and I'll rework things. I record everything, at least audio, go back and listen. I wish I was more disciplined to physically write jokes out, but I came to this at the timing when I came to it, I was leaving the theater. I was a little burnt out as an administrator in a college visual and performing arts program, and I needed a little bit of a break from that. So to memorize lines that I wrote felt too much like theater, and so I needed it to be different at the time. At this point, what I should really do is transcribe audio recordings of material I do, and it would be much easier for me to go, I think, and trim the fat looking at a transcript
right.
than just hearing it,
Right.
and get rid of all the extraneous stuff. Henry Cho's my comedy mentor, and I've been able to open for him a lot over the
Mm,
last 4 or 5 years, and one of his notes is take a 2-minute bit, stretch it into a 4-minute bit, and then take it back to a 2-minute bit, right? So
right.
almost overwrite it, and then distill it back down, and you'll just keep the gold. At least is how I've interpreted that.
Right.
And I've got
Yeah, I like that.
a lot of jokes that I need to do that with. So
Right.
I've a lot of my focus has been on producing
Yeah.
in the last few years, and I'm looking to switch that up a little bit in the new year. And so hopefully I'll take some of the writing advice that I've been given and actually put it to practice. That's my
Mm.
goal anyway.
So let's get into producing. I haven't had a lot of folks on here yet. I've had a couple who are doing some producing. I'm about to like wade into that world here in the next, I don't know, 2 months. Like I've I got a show on the horizon, like a monthly show that'll start happening. So I'm pretty excited about that, but I'm also a little nervous. Like I'm curious, like what have been some takeaways for you as you've been producing shows, like, I don't know, 1 or 2 must do's, 1 or 2 must don'ts.
Sure. Yeah. Well, by far the most challenging part is the marketing, right? So having buy-in from the venue, assuming you don't have your own space, assuming you have a venue partner, having them on board and helping to promote the show
Right.
is usually the difference between
Hmm.
success and not. You know, when you show up, the staff at the venue to be excited that you're there
Right.
and them to be invested, you know, the manager, the owner, whoever, in you being there. It's real frustrating if you're working with a venue and they've got a huge social media following and you can't even get them to share the poster of the event.
Right.
You know, it's like,
Right.
you know, come on guys. Well, you know, it's you want it to be a win-win situation. Most of the venues that I partner with, so I run Panama City Comedy, independent comedy production company, and we partner with local venues all over the panhandle of Florida. And usually I keep the door and they keep food and beverage. That's
Okay.
normally the deal. Occasionally there's a few venues that hire me like they're hiring a band. And but I try not to do free shows. In fact, I don't produce free shows. I
Mm,
perform on free shows, meaning the audience is not paying. But if
right,
I'm producing it, everyone in the room has to be there on purpose for comedy, right?
right,
You can have back, and I have to explain this to venues sometimes because they see us being successful and they want a crowd in their venue. And I have to explain to them that you can have background music. You can't have background comedy. It doesn't
right.
work. It doesn't work. There's nothing worse than going out to a venue. I remember distinctly, I saw a buddy of mine recently and I reminded him of this moment and he remembered it. I was doing a free show performing. He was trying to eat dinner with his family. And there's a dork in a polo shirt, me, telling dad jokes in the corner. And I see him, he's cutting his food and he looks up at me. You know what I mean? And I thought, yeah, me too, buddy. Me too. And that was the moment I was like, it's just unfair. You're trying to go out for a beer with your
Right,
buddy or take your family out to dinner and you're being bombarded with a comedy show? Come
right,
on.
right,
So, I don't produce shows unless people have paid to be there. So
right,
they've got something invested in it.
right.
Yeah. So that's one thing I've learned.
Mm,
And then I think one of the things I pulled over from theater is just working in the professional theater and educational theater. There's a certain standard of professionalism in terms of communication, in terms of production value that I brought with me. And I was always surprised that touring comedians would come through and be complimentary of that. And I wasn't sure why, because I was just doing what I thought
right.
we were supposed to be doing. And then I started going out a little bit and I thought, oh, I see.
Jeez.
This isn't how everyone's necessarily doing it.
Right,
See why
right.
people were complimentary. So, we sort of pride ourselves on that in Panama City
Great.
Comedy of running a quality operation, and, so
Yeah,
those are a couple things.
that's great. So you're doing the stand-up comedy, you're producing, you've got some acting coming up. And one of the things I like to ask comedians too is like I always have this same scenario. It's like imagine that somebody's watching or listening and they're like on the verge of maybe like about to pull the trigger to do comedy.
Mm.
What would you what's like your best one or two pieces of advice to give to them?
Don't do it, man. Don't do it.
I
Don't be
love
an
that because
idiot.
it's the exact opposite of what everybody else says.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Why do you go spend time with your family or go
Dude.
go get a family. Go hang out with your friends. No, I'm in a weird place right now personally. I don't know exactly why I got into this and
Mm,
why I'm doing it. I don't have a comedy why yet. So I plan
mm,
to spend this next year slowing down producing, just sort of reevaluating some things. But I would say people ask me all the time to teach a stand-up comedy workshop, and I'm like,
mm,
okay, here's the workshop. Write down things that you think are funny. Go to an open mic and try it out. If you're not going to use the mic stand, move it out of the way so it's not in front of you and record what you're doing,
mm,
at least audio, so you can go back and listen to it when the adrenaline wears off because it's usually much better than you think it was or not near as good
right,
as you think it
right.
was. Rarely do I listen back to the tape and go like, "Oh, yeah, that's exactly." Sometimes you
Mm,
make one tiny mistake and in your head you magnify it, but you're like, "Oh, I don't even know that I forgot that tag or whatever." So,
right.
yeah, I think there's just some boldness in trying it, and I encourage people to go out and see comedy. I know there's a fear sometimes. Some people don't like to watch comedy because they're afraid, of inadvertently, you know, stealing material or absorbing
Right.
what is ends up being parallel thought. I don't know. But I think early on it's really important if you want to do good theater or you want to do good comedy, I think you have to see it
Mm,
too to know what it is we're trying to do. But yeah, my advice is write down what you think is funny. Get to an open mic and try it and move the mic stand and record it and then go back and listen to it. I mean, people do comedy for different reasons. There's some guys and girls in our scene that it's obviously just a social thing. You know, That's where their friend group is, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's some people that will never advance out from the open mic scene
Right.
onto paid shows, and that's okay. And then there's other people that are taking it really serious, and they're trying to get better, and they want feedback, and they want notes, and I got guys doing it half the amount of time I have that are already doing the same shows I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's a weird thing as comedy, I would say, to remind people that no matter what level you're at, this is probably true in a lot of fields, but particularly in comedy, no matter what level you're at, there's always gonna be somebody who's at a higher,
Right.
and it's weird sometimes when somebody's in the scene for a year and suddenly they're blowing past you and they're opening for folks that you wish you were opening for. So
Yeah.
it's a real weird, it can be mentally a little stressful if you're comparing yourself too much to
Yep.
what other people are doing. Because you talk to the guys that are doing the stuff that you wanna be doing,
Right.
and they're also stressed, wishing they were doing the next
Right.
level. So,
Right.
yeah, it's a weird head game sometimes. So,
Yeah, I think it can be a very vicious psychological, like vortex or cycle that you can work yourself. And like I write about that a lot in my blog about like not comparing yourself. C.S. Lewis, I think, is like comparison is the thief of joy. I think is one of his
sure, yeah.
quotes. So I think that like psychological aspect is huge, and not comparing like your first quarter to somebody else's 20th quarter, or
Yeah,
something like.
yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
And, you
Well, it's
know
funny. It's hard to do that though sometimes because one of the things I love about comedy is, like, in a traditional, like, club setting, it's not uncommon for 3 people from very different, uh, places in their career to come together and be on one show,
Right,
right? Like,
right.
how cool is that? That doesn't
Yeah,
happen. I'm never gonna play basketball with LeBron, but it's very conceivable that I'll be on a show in the near future with a LeBron of comedy.
right,
It's the way it works. You know what I
right,
mean? If I'm hired as a host or a feature at a club with a big national touring headliner, I'm not there yet, but suddenly I'm on the same 90-minute show that they're on.
right,
What other field does that happen in?
right. Yeah,
So
that's a great
that's
point.
pretty cool, especially with the if they're open to, mentorship informally or, picking the brain of people that are further down the road than you are on the journey, that feels like a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's great when they're not arrogant, right? Or just blowing
Yeah.
you off. They're willing to like take the time to talk or mentor or even just not be a prick.
Yeah. Sure. And I think I've been really fortunate I mean, I've hired hundreds of comedians in the last 6, 7 years, and it's a very small list of the number of people that were jerks.
Mm,
Very, very small, which I feel pretty
great.
fortunate about that. And the best comics that I've come across are also always the most generous, the most humble, the most, and maybe that's just what I'm attracted to in comedians, but
Mm,
I it's just nice the ones that remember when they were where you are,
right,
right? And if they were lucky, they had somebody, who reached back and gave them some advice or
right.
something like that.
Yeah, man. I love when you are so you've worked with like you've hired hundreds of comedians of what do you like somebody might be watching or listening to this and they I want to work I'd like to work with like what are you looking for when you're like bringing comedians on?
Yeah. So I'll say this as a producer, the only thing I don't need help with is finding comedians, right? Like, I can tell you what I want from that's the easiest part of what I do, but everyone seems to think that's must be the hardest part. I can tell you what I want from like a booking email, that sort of thing. Because
Sure.
I had a guy reach out to me recently, a comedian in Pensacola, I think. And he sent me a message. We have some mutual friends. And he said, so and so said I should reach out to you and send a video. Would that be okay? And they caught me in a rare sort of really candid moment. And I'm like, why are you asking to send the video? Just send the video. You know what I mean? Put it all in that email. With bookers, they are so, I don't even really like that word because booking is the smallest part of what I do when I'm producing comedy.
Right, right.
However, that's the word that makes comics salivate. What, he's a booker, I gotta meet him. It put all the information when you make it idiot proof, make my job easy.
Yeah.
Put in the subject line, um, specific dates or date range. Let me know what type of spot you're looking for. Include the video. There's a comedian named Brendan Gay who I've hired. Great. A few years ago, he sent me the email, and I said, "This is the best email I've ever seen.
Mm,
Everything I needed was right there. I didn't have to go back to email." And I told him, I said, "We need to use this as the everyone needs to do their emails like you." The more back and forth you have with someone, the more likely the conversation is going to just dissipate. Because some people are
mm,
hitting me up on Instagram, some are hitting me up on Messenger, some are emailing me at one of 3 different email addresses. It's not uncommon for me to go back and forth with you 2 or 3 times, and then it's not, I just lose track of the conversation.
right,
Whereas if
right.
you put it all in
Makes
that
sense.
email, limit the number of interactions we have to have through correspondence, and it will greatly improve your chances of getting booked.
That's great.
I got booked at Zany's recently in November. I'm going back next in a week from when we're recording this, doing a showcase. And I sent the type of email that I like to receive.
Mm,
I'm like, clean comedian available November 10 and 29. That was the subject line. And
wow,
then just no fluff. We feel like we need to, they don't have time for the fluff.
right.
Even if they're a friend of yours, you don't need to do the fluff because it's already, save that for the green room. If you don't
Mm,
know them, cut through get right to the meat and the potato. Right,
love it.
just the facts. The shorter the email, the better. Here's my video. Here's some people I have worked with. Here's what I'm doing. Also, don't do this. We can do a whole podcast on this. Don't tell me your availability is wide open, even if it is. That tells me you're not being booked anywhere else.
Wow.
So why do I wanna book you if no one else is booking you? So give me specific dates or a week or 2
Hmm.
because that tells me, you know what I'm saying? I
Right,
used to
yeah. Makes a
yeah,
lot of sense.
yeah, I used to worry that, if 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 a headliner asked me to do a show and I wasn't available, I'd be like, "Oh, no, they'll never ask me again." But then I was like, "Wait a minute. I shouldn't always be available every time they ask
Right,
because I should be doing other stuff."
right.
Not just their stuff. I don't know.
Hmm.
Some of the stuff
Yeah,
I've
I like
learned
that.
the hard way.
Well, let me show your website here, dude, so people can get your website and
Oh,
connect with
sure.
you on social. We all know you're busy, but it's good to have followers and subs and those sorts of things. So it's jasonhedden.com, y'all. Jasonhedden.com, HEDDEN.com. And go there. I got it up on the screen if you're watching and listening. If you're watching, you'll be able to see it. Comedy, producer bio videos, contact, socials. You can follow on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all the things. So go to jasonhedden.com and follow Jason on whatever socials you're using the most. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. And if you're, and he's got his calendar up here too. So if you're in Pensacola, especially coming up, you can go check him out there. And then,
Yeah, no, I just did that. See, I haven't even updated. I'm the last show of
right,
the year for me, I don't know when this is gonna air, but last show of the year for me is gonna be December 22nd at, the Lab at Zany's. I'm doing the Nateland
right
showcase.
on, dude. Congrats on
Yeah.
that.
Thanks. Thanks,
Heck
thanks.
yeah,
I
dude.
I
That's
thought I thought
awesome.
of something else with EPKs. This is a electronic press kits, right? This is a big pet peeve of mine. If people send me an EPK, if I can't cut and paste your bio, out of the EPK, it's useless to me
Hmm.
because if I'm your bio, the kind of EPKs I like the best are actually a Google Drive, and each thing in the file in the folder, one's a headshot labeled, one's a bio. I want to be able to cut and paste your bio without having to do weird editing and things to the font. And a lot of times people will send these beautiful EPKs, but I can't cut and paste your bio. So
Hmm.
it's gorgeous but useless to me. And don't use my website as an example of that because if you scroll down, there's not an option to pull my bio out of there real easy.
Just copy and paste.
If you were cut and pasted it, it probably wouldn't come out cleanly. So I need to follow my own advice.
Hmm. I love that. So essentially, I mean, it's just if you're gonna reach out to somebody, make their life easy, make everything convenient.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Oh man, you got a picture with Kevin Nealon. That's great.
Yeah, I had we produced Kevin in February and we had Tim Meadows here in June. So
Right on.
got to do a couple shows with I did a
That's a
show with them.
throwback to those old Saturday Night Live sketches you were doing back
Absolutely.
in. Dude, that's awesome. Kevin is on my Mount Rushmore of comedians, dude.
Dude, he was I knew he would be good. I didn't know he would be that good because most
Yeah,
of us know him starting from Saturday Night Live,
yeah,
and a lot of us forget that he was a comedian for stand-up years before he
yeah.
started doing that. He was so good, so good.
He's so clever, dude. Like, he just his joke writing is impeccable. Like everything, I've seen him twice live, and that only increased my like respect for him. The dude's a genius.
Agreed, agreed, and as kind and humble off stage as you would hope him to be.
That's great to hear. And a killer artist. He's got a book of drawings of comedians and stories. But yeah,
He
for
does.
those of you watching, man, go to jasonhedden.com, follow, subscribe, do all the things there. If you're in Florida at any point, Pensacola area, check out
Yeah,
Panama
you
City
you
Comedy.
yeah, absolutely. Check out Panama City Comedy. We've got we're scaling back a little bit in 2026. We're
Yeah.
producing less shows, but we're still gonna have some great stuff. We got great venue partners and a strong scene here.
Yeah, right on. And you guys, after you're done doing all that, head over to michaelhalcomb.live and subscribe. I have a daily comedy blog there. I write about comedy like every day of the week. And then the podcast drops twice a week on there. So you'll know when each episode's coming out. This, by the way, is only part one of my chat with Jason. So I'm super stoked to get into part two. And if you're subscribed, you'll know when that's going to drop. So michaelhalcomb.live. It's on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all the things, wherever you get your podcast. But dude, Jason, this has been really cool. Thanks for the insight, the advice. I know like the listeners of this podcast will eat all that up, dude. It's so helpful.
Cool, cool. Yeah, my pleasure. I appreciate opportunities like this to articulate some of the things that rattle around in my brain.
Right. Well, if for those of you watching or listening, thanks so much for that. We are going to wrap it up here and say we hope that helps.
It's all messed up, yeah. Everything's messed up. We're going from this mess up to the next setup. Everything seems so messed up, but it's just our setup.